Hi, I'm Daniel Ziegler. I was the writer and director of Horror Spell, the last one. Well, ours had obviously 4 different styles going on, so it had a whole bunch of different influences from all the different decades. Once I decided early on that I wanted to do something that dealt with different eras of horror, I just kind of picked a few that I really liked. The first slasher section, all your classics: Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. The zombie section was inspired by like Italian giallo films, so Suspiria was a big one we looked at. The black and white monster era type things, we tried to do it in the vein of Universal monsters, so Frankenstein, Dracula, and then the silent film. One of my favorite silent films is Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, so that was one we looked to for that one, but also Nosferatu, a whole bunch of other movies, but those are the big ones. I like what you said about your speed of horror, your brand of horror, because I kind of agree with that. I haven't always loved this genre. When I was younger, I avoided horror pretty much all the time. It's freaked me out. So what I trying to do with this film in particular was kind of track the fact that it has changed so much. And I kind of got into horror with more of like the lighter stuff, the 50s sci-fi B-movie horror stuff and the Universal monsters. And that was kind of my gateway into more and more, I guess, serious or more modern or more graphic horror. I love it all now, but it was definitely kind of a journey as I got more into the weeds of it, and that's kind of why I wanted to make this film in particular is a love letter to, not one type of horror, but the genre and the history of it, and my personal relationship with that. I kind of settled on the genre first. I wanted to do something horror, but I wasn't quite sure where to go with it. I always like to do kind of things that play with form, so I didn't want to just do kind of a straightforward narrative. But then I started to think about, like I said, like representing the entire history of horror and the different styles and how it's evolved so much. And then that's kind of where it came from. I sort of early on kind of described it as WandaVision, but for horror instead of sitcoms, the Marvel show. So that was kind of like my in was like, oh, if they do something that kind of shows the different eras like that, I think I could do that all in one film. And the way that it went from a feature to a short was just that I wasn't able to do a feature with the time or the money or anything. But we'll see. Maybe someday. Yeah, I had a couple ideas, alternate ideas for the ending, and because it was changing so much, it was always hard for me to kind of think about how you get out of that style change in a way that makes sense. And ultimately, I kind of grounded it in the change of the character more than anything. And I didn't want the ending to drag on too much after that, because that's kind of your moment of catharsis. And just in terms of like the shot, I like circular endings where the ending references the beginning, so you open and you end on that pumpkin shot decoration in the lawn, which is, I like bookends like that. Yeah, it's pretty similar, and I did notice when you're screened how similar they were in terms of the style and stuff. So I'm sure you already can appreciate that, and I appreciate you asking about it and calling out, because it is something that took a lot of focus on everyone's part to make sure that it looked good. And as I've said several times, there's 4 different styles, and then there's the not styled version. So we had to do a ton of research. Very similarly, I grabbed a lot of screenshots, had them on set. Met with the cinematographer and determined the way we could shoot it. The camera placement was very important. In the silent film era, it's all wide, locked off shots. Black and white's a little, similar, kind of all tripod locked off shots, but, a little bit more cutting. And then you have more unique movements with the camera in the other ones. But, even down to the film grain, making sure, comparing it side by side to some shots from other films, making sure it was the right size, the right depth, the jitter on the silent era, film, the film gate jitter. The lighting, the music was a big part of it that I think sold it. I have a great composer that I've worked with, and he did a great job of kind of mimicking the style of the different eras, so that subconsciously adds to the whole look and feel of it. And the sound, the scrackly crackle track with the different eras and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I could go on, but it just every single aspect of it was someone was taking a look at that, and we were always trying to compare it to what we were doing faithfully to the examples that we had. So I think it turned out pretty good. I'm happy with it.
Can we get another round of applause for the filmmaker team? One more.